The message arrived on all our screens simultaneously. Every phone, tablet, and computer across the globe lit up with the same haunting words. Your species has been found wanting. That was humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, and it wouldn't be our last. I remember standing in Times Square, watching as the giant billboards flickered and displayed their ultimatum. The crowd around me fell silent, thousands of people frozen in place, their eyes fixed on those 5 simple words that would change everything. I'm Sarah Chin, former UN ambassador to the Council, and I'm here to tell you how humanity proved them wrong. You see, they thought we were just another primitive species they could add to their collection of protected worlds, planets they essentially turned into cosmic zoos, where civilizations were allowed to develop only within strict parameters set by the Council's so-called guidance. They didn't expect us to fight back. They certainly didn't expect us to win. The Council had been watching us for centuries, monitoring our progress through hidden satellites and cloaked observers. They'd seen our wars, our environmental struggles, our political divisions. In their eyes, we were too volatile, too unpredictable to be trusted with advanced technology or interstellar travel. Their solution was simple: place Earth under their protection and gradually mold us into their ideal of a civilized species. What they failed to understand was that humanity's greatest strength lay in the very chaos they feared. While their society had grown rigid with protocol and hierarchy over millions of years, we had learned to adapt, to innovate, to think outside their perfectly ordered box. Our technology might have been primitive by their standards, but our creativity and determination were unmatched. The first sign of their intervention came when our most advanced scientific facilities began experiencing mysterious failures. Quantum computers crashed, fusion experiments collapsed, and our fledgling ag research hit inexplicable dead ends. They were systematically dismantling our technological progress, all while claiming it was for our own good. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. A junior scientist at CERN made an accidental discovery that would change everything. While investigating the equipment failures, Dr. Alex Thompson noticed something peculiar in the background radiation readings. The Council's technology wasn't just blocking our progress. It was leaving behind traces of their own advanced systems, tiny breadcrumbs that would lead us to understanding their supposedly superior science. What followed was the greatest collaborative effort in human history. Scientists from every nation, working in secret, began studying these technological fingerprints. We learned more about advanced physics in those 6 months than we had in the previous century. The Council, so focused on their traditional methods of control, never imagined we could reverse engineer their own technology. That's when we implemented Operation Phoenix, humanity's masterstroke against our would-be protectors. But before I tell you about the day we stunned the Galactic Council, you need to understand just how close we came to losing everything. The Council had already begun their second phase of protection, and Earth's fate hung by a thread. I can still remember the look on the Council leader's face when we revealed our hand. Those crystalline features, usually so composed and elegant, twisted in disbelief as they realized just how badly they had underestimated the human spirit. But that moment of triumph came at a cost none of us could have predicted, and the consequences would reshape not just Earth's future, but the entire galaxy's balance of power. The events I'm about to share have never been made public until now. The time has finally come to tell the full story of humanity's finest hour, and how a species deemed wanting proved that being unpredictable wasn't our greatest weakness, it was our greatest strength. To understand the full magnitude of what happened, we need to go back to the 3 months before Operation Phoenix. I was still serving as Earth's reluctant liaison to the Council, attending their sessions in their massive orbital station that they positioned just beyond the Moon's orbit. Every time I made the journey up there in their sleek transport vessels, I couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and resentment. The technology they possessed was breathtaking. Corridors that seemed to shift and flow like liquid crystal, artificial gravity that felt more natural than Earth's own, and viewing chambers that could show you any corner of the galaxy in real time. But beneath all that technological splendor lay an arrogance that was becoming harder to stomach with each passing day. The Council members, with their towering ethereal forms and flowing robes that seemed to capture starlight itself, treated us like children who needed constant supervision. Their lead representative, whom we called the Archon, would often lecture me about humanity's violent tendencies and our lack of cosmic perspective. What the Council didn't know was that every time I returned to Earth, I was bringing back more than just their condescending messages. The quantum sensor hidden in my diplomatic badge, developed by Dr. Thompson's team, was collecting terabytes of data about their technology. It was a dangerous game. If they'd caught me, the consequences would have been severe. But we were running out of time. The Council's interference was becoming more aggressive. They weren't just stopping our technological progress anymore. They were actively dismantling our existing infrastructure. Power grids across the globe began experiencing mysterious failures. Satellite communications became increasingly unreliable. They claimed it was all part of their protective protocols, designed to guide us toward a more sustainable path. But it was what happened in Geneva that finally pushed us over the edge. The Council had ordered the complete shutdown of CERN, claiming our particle physics experiments were destabilizing local space-time. Dr. Thompson and their team had just hours to save decades of research data before the facility would be forcibly powered down. It was during this desperate backup operation that they made the breakthrough that would change everything. While analyzing the energy signatures of the Council's suppression field, Dr. Thompson noticed something that defied conventional physics. The field wasn't just blocking our technology, it was redirecting energy in ways that seemed to violate the laws of thermodynamics. This discovery led to a stunning revelation. The Council's advanced technology wasn't based on superior science. It was simply working from a different set of physical principles, ones they had jealously guarded from lesser species for millennia. Working in secret bunkers deep beneath the Earth's surface, shielded from the Council's monitoring systems, teams of scientists from every nation began piecing together the puzzle. Chinese quantum physicists collaborated with American engineers. Russian mathematicians worked alongside Brazilian computer scientists. The old political boundaries meant nothing anymore. We were all fighting for humanity's future. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young researcher from Nigeria, whose name I still can't reveal for security reasons, recognized a pattern in the Council's energy signatures that matched ancient cave paintings found across Africa, Asia, and South America. These weren't just primitive art as we always assumed. They were mathematical equations, left behind by the Council's earliest observers thousands of years ago. Our ancestors had been trying to tell us something, and we finally learned how to listen. What we discovered shook us to our core. The Council wasn't just monitoring us. They had been actively manipulating human development for over 10,000 years. Every major setback in our scientific history, every dark age, had been engineered to keep us from advancing too quickly. They believed they were protecting us from ourselves, but in reality, they were protecting themselves from what we might become. Using Dr. Thompson's discoveries and the equations hidden in our ancient art, we began developing our own version of the Council's technology, but we took it in a different direction. While their tech was built on control and suppression, we focused on adaptation and enhancement. We didn't try to bend the universe to our will. We learned to work with it in ways the Council had never imagined. Operation Phoenix took shape in abandoned mines and underground facilities across the globe. The Council's own suppression field helped mask our activities. They were so convinced of their superiority that they never thought to look for development in areas they deemed technologically inactive. Their biggest mistake was assuming that humanity would follow the same technological path they had. But the real game changer came when we discovered the true nature of their monitoring systems. The Council didn't just watch us through their advanced sensors. They were connected to a vast network that linked all their protected worlds. They thought this network made them invincible. They never considered that it could become their greatest vulnerability. I remember the last normal Council session I attended just days before we launched Operation Phoenix. The Archon was delivering another one of their patronizing speeches about humanity's need for guidance. Looking at their serene, confident face, I felt a moment of doubt. Were we really ready to challenge beings who had dominated the galaxy for millions of years? But then I remembered the determination in Dr. Thompson's eyes, the quiet confidence of our scientists working around the clock, and the uncanny insights from our ancient ancestors. The Council had made one fundamental mistake in their assessment of humanity. They viewed our adaptability as a weakness, our diversity as a flaw, and our resistance to control as a sign of primitiveness. They failed to recognize that these very traits had allowed us to survive and thrive against incredible odds throughout our history. What we were about to attempt had never been done before in the galaxy's history. No protected species had ever broken free from the Council's control. The risks were enormous. If we failed, Earth would likely be placed under even stricter control, possibly even quarantined completely from the rest of the galaxy. But we had passed the point of no return. Humanity had made its choice. We would rather face extinction as free beings than survive as carefully controlled specimens in the Council's cosmic zoo. As I sat there in that final session, listening to the Archon drone on about our species' shortcomings, I thought about the incredible secret we were keeping. In less than 24 hours, we would either change the course of human history or become a cautionary tale for future civilizations. The next phase of our story was about to begin, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The morning of Operation Phoenix arrived with an eerie calm. Across the globe, billions of people went about their daily routines, unaware that hidden beneath their feet, in thousands of secret locations, humanity was about to make its boldest move since we first looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. I was in the Council's orbital station for what we hoped would be the last time. My role was crucial. I needed to keep the Council distracted during the critical first phase of our plan. The Archon had called an emergency session, claiming they had detected disturbing patterns in human behavior. If they only knew how disturbing those patterns really were. The Council chamber was as impressive as ever, with its crystalline walls that seemed to contain entire nebulae. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their elevated positions, looking down at the human delegation with their usual mix of pity and disdain. I can still picture the Archon's face as they began their speech about implementing stricter controls on Earth's remaining technology. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Thompson and their team were initiating the first phase of Operation Phoenix. Using the reversed engineered technology we developed, they began activating thousands of quantum resonance nodes buried deep within the Earth's crust. Each node was designed to tap into the same energy field the Council used for their suppression technology, but in a way they had never imagined possible. The Council's first indication that something was wrong came 3 hours into the session. One of their junior members, a being of pure energy contained within a translucent shell, suddenly flickered and shifted form. The Archon paused mid-sentence, their crystalline features showing the first signs of concern I had ever seen from them. That's when our deep space monitoring stations picked up something extraordinary. The Council's network, their precious web of control spanning the galaxy, was experiencing unexpected fluctuations. Each quantum node we activated sent ripples through their system, creating a cascade effect they had never encountered before. Their technology, based on rigid control and suppression, couldn't adapt to the organic, evolving nature of our approach. But we had underestimated the Council's defensive capabilities. As soon as they realized something was interfering with their network, they initiated emergency protocols that none of our intelligence had prepared us for. The orbital station's defense systems activated, creating a barrier that cut off all communication with Earth. I was trapped inside with the very beings we were trying to overthrow. The next few minutes were chaos. Council members were shouting in languages I'd never heard before, their usually composed facades cracking under the pressure of what was happening. The Archon turned to me, their eyes blazing with a fury that made my blood run cold. "What have you done?" they demanded, but for the first time, I heard something new in their voice: fear. Down on Earth, our teams were racing against time. The Council's defensive measures were stronger than we'd anticipated, threatening to overwhelm our quantum nodes before they could achieve full resonance. Dr. Thompson made a desperate decision. They initiated Phase 2 ahead of schedule, without waiting for confirmation from the orbital station. It was a massive gamble, but we had no choice. The Council's monitoring systems began detecting massive energy buildups across Earth's surface. Their suppression field, designed to keep us technologically contained, was being overwhelmed by something they couldn't understand. Our quantum nodes weren't fighting against their technology. They were harmonizing with it, creating new patterns that their rigid systems couldn't process. In the orbital station, alarms were blaring as their systems started failing one by one. The Archon was frantically trying to initiate some kind of emergency protocol, but nothing was responding as it should. The other council members were in a state of panic I never thought possible from such advanced beings. Their perfect system of control was unraveling before their eyes. That's when we received the first transmissions from other protected worlds. Our interference with the Council's network had created unexpected connections, allowing us to communicate directly with other species under their control. The messages we received confirmed our suspicions. We weren't the only ones who had been quietly preparing to break free. But the Council had one last card to play. As their systems continued to fail, the Archon activated what they called the Omega Protocol. The station's entire structure began to transform, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden within its crystalline walls. They were prepared to destroy Earth rather than lose control of it. I had my own secret weapon, though, a quantum device hidden within my diplomatic credentials that was designed specifically for this scenario. But as I reached for it, the Archon's guards surrounded me. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and I had seconds to decide what to do next. The Council's weapons were powering up, their energy signatures reaching critical levels. On Earth, Dr. Thompson's team was pushing our systems to their absolute limits, knowing they couldn't sustain this level of power much longer. Everything we had worked for, everything we had sacrificed, came down to these next few moments. Looking into the Archon's eyes, I saw something I never expected: recognition. They finally understood what made humans different, what made us dangerous. We weren't just fighting against their control. We were fighting for something bigger than ourselves. And that's when I made a decision that would either save Earth or doom it forever. The quantum device in my diplomatic credentials wasn't what the Council thought it was. It wasn't a weapon at all. As the guards surrounded me, I held it up and activated it, causing every screen in the chamber to light up with images that made the Council members recoil in shock. They were looking at their own history, scenes from millions of years ago that they had tried to erase from the galaxy's memory. The images revealed a stunning truth. The Council hadn't evolved naturally into their advanced state. They too had once been a protected species. The beings who had uplifted them had long since vanished from the galaxy, but the Council had continued their cycle of control, becoming the very force they had once rebelled against. The Archon's face contorted with a mixture of rage and shame as their carefully hidden past was exposed. But that wasn't the biggest revelation. Dr. Thompson's team had discovered something even more extraordinary in their research. The energy patterns we detected, the ones that matched our ancient cave paintings, weren't just equations. They were fragments of a message left behind by those original beings. They hadn't vanished. They had evolved beyond physical form, and they were watching, waiting to see which species would figure it out. The Council's weapons were still charging, but now their own members were divided. Some demanded immediate action against Earth, while others, shaken by the revelations of their own history, called for restraint. The Archons stood frozen, their perfect composure shattered as millennium of carefully constructed lies crumbled around them. That's when our quantum nodes triggered something unprecedented. The energy patterns we'd created weren't just disrupting the Council's network. They were actually communicating with it in a way that hadn't happened since the network's creation. Every protected world in the galaxy was receiving the same images we'd just shown the Council, along with the data proving their authenticity. But the Council's defensive protocols were designed to be absolute. Even as some members called for peace, the weapons continued their startup sequence, automated systems preparing to fire on Earth. We had seconds to act, but the solution came from an unexpected source. The junior Council member who had flickered earlier suddenly transformed, their energy form expanding to fill the chamber with brilliant light. They weren't just a junior member, they were one of the original beings, hidden among the Council for eons, watching and waiting. Their voice resonated through the station, not in words but in pure thought and emotion, sharing the truth they had waited so long to reveal. The Council hadn't just been controlling the galaxy's development. They had been stifling its evolution towards something greater. Earth's quantum experiment had done more than just disrupt their network. It had proven we were ready for the next step. But the Archon, consumed by millennia of wielding absolute power, wasn't ready to let go. They initiated an override sequence, trying to force the weapons to fire despite the protests of their own people. That's when Dr. Thompson's voice crackled through my communications device, breaking through the Council's barriers. The message was brief but changed everything. The nodes are linking with the others. All of them. It's happening across the entire galaxy. Every protected world, inspired by Earth's resistance and armed with the truth about the Council, was activating their own quantum signatures. The galaxy itself seemed to pulse with new energy as species after species joined the network, not in submission, but in harmony. The Council's rigid control was being replaced by something organic, collaborative, and far more powerful. The Archon made one final, desperate attempt to maintain control. They activated their personal override codes, trying to trigger the weapons manually. But as the energy built to critical levels, something extraordinary happened. The station's crystalline walls began to resonate with the combined quantum signatures of thousands of worlds, each adding their own unique frequency to the symphony of resistance. The weapons couldn't fire, not because they were damaged, but because they were being transformed. The very technology the Council had used to control us was evolving, responding to the collective will of all the species they had tried to suppress. But this transformation was releasing unprecedented amounts of energy, and the station's structure was beginning to buckle under the strain. As alarms blared and systems overloaded, I realized we had only moments before the station would tear itself apart. The choice before us was clear, but the consequences were beyond anything we had prepared for. The junior council member, now revealed as our ancient observer, extended a tendril of pure energy toward me, offering a chance at something far beyond mere freedom from the Council's control. Around us, the station's crystalline walls had become a swirling vortex of energy, showing glimpses of every world connected to the network. In those fragments of vision, I could see species of all kinds looking up at their skies, witnessing the moment that would change everything. The Archons stood at their control panel, their hand hovering over the final failsafe, forcing us all toward a moment of truth that would determine not just Earth's fate, but the future of all intelligent life in the galaxy. Time seemed to freeze in that moment as the Archon's hand descended toward the failsafe. But before they could reach it, the ancient observer's energy form surged forward, enveloping both the Archon and me in a field of pure light. In that instant, I experienced something beyond human comprehension, a vision of the galaxy as it truly was, not just a collection of stars and planets, but a living, breathing entity of which we were all part. The Archons saw it too. Their crystalline features softened as millennia of rigid control melted away, replaced by the same wonder they must have felt when their own species first reached for the stars. The failsafe forgotten, they watched in awe as the station's walls became transparent, revealing the transformed network that now connected every protected world in a way the Council had never imagined. Dr. Thompson's voice cut through the moment, urgent and clear. The quantum resonance is stable. Every world is in sync, but the energy levels are still climbing. We need to direct it somewhere, or the feedback will tear the network apart. Even as they spoke, I could feel the station shuddering under the strain of containing so much power. That's when I understood what the ancient observer had been trying to tell us. The Council's network wasn't meant to control. It was meant to connect. Earth's resistance hadn't just broken their power. It had restored the network to its original purpose. But now we had to prove we could handle that power better than the Council had. In a move that surprised even me, I reached out and grabbed the Archon's hand. "Help us," I said, looking into those ancient eyes. "Help us do what your people couldn't." For the first time in probably thousands of years, the Archon hesitated, then nodded. Together, guided by the ancient observer, we accessed the network's true potential. The Archon's knowledge of the system, combined with humanity's innovative approach and the observer's wisdom, created something entirely new. The energy that had threatened to tear everything apart began to flow naturally between worlds, creating bridges of light and thought that spanned the galaxy. The transformation was beautiful and terrifying. Every species connected to the network contributed its own unique perspective, its own dreams and fears and hopes for the future. The rigid hierarchy of the Council dissolved, replaced by a dynamic web of cooperation and shared discovery. But it came with a price none of us had expected. As the new network stabilized, we realized that the station, and every other piece of Council technology, was changing at a fundamental level. The crystalline structures were becoming organic, responding to the collective consciousness of all connected species. We weren't just sharing information anymore, we were sharing evolution itself. Dr. Thompson's team reported similar changes on Earth. Our quantum nodes had become something beyond technology, creating what they called evolutionary anchors that would allow humanity to grow in ways we never thought possible. The same was happening on every world that had joined the resistance. The Archon, still holding my hand, spoke words I never thought I'd hear. We were wrong. About everything. The ones who uplifted us, they weren't trying to create perfect order. They were preparing us for this moment, this evolution, and we nearly prevented it out of fear. But as the dust settled, and the new network calmed with the combined potential of thousands of civilizations, we discovered something that changed everything once again. The ancient observer, now fading back into their energy form, shared one final revelation. This wasn't the first time this had happened. Somewhere out there, beyond the edges of our galaxy, other networks had already evolved, already transcended, and they were waiting to welcome us. The Council chambers, once a symbol of oppression, became the first hub of what we now call the Galactic Confluence. The Archon, transformed by the experience, became one of its strongest advocates for cooperation rather than control. Earth, the planet they had once deemed wanting, was now recognized as the catalyst that had sparked a galactic renaissance. But perhaps the most profound change was in how we saw ourselves. Humanity had not just won its freedom, we had helped restore the natural order of cosmic evolution. The very chaos and unpredictability that the Council had feared turned out to be exactly what the galaxy needed to break free from stagnation. As I look out from the transformed station now, watching ships from 1,000 worlds come and go freely, I can't help but smile at the irony. The Council had spent millions of years trying to prevent what they saw as chaos, never realizing that the chaos itself was the point. Evolution isn't about control. It's about adaptation, innovation, and the courage to leap into the unknown. And now, as we prepare for our first contact with those other evolved networks, I find myself wondering, was this Earth's fierce retaliation, or was it the universe's way of healing itself? Either way, one thing is certain. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't our ability to fight back, but our ability to imagine something better. The real question is, what will we imagine next? That was 5 years ago. Today, as I record this from the Confluence Hub that once served as the Council station, I can tell you that the changes we unleashed that day were just the beginning. Dr. Thompson now leads the Evolutionary Sciences Division, studying how different species adapt to and shape the new network. Their latest discovery suggests that our consciousness itself is evolving, developing capabilities that our ancestors could only dream about. The Archon, though they prefer to be called Guardian now, has become one of our strongest allies in preparing for contact with the other evolved networks. They've shared insights from the Council's hidden archives that have helped us understand just how vast and incredible our galaxy truly is. Sometimes I catch them watching Earth through the Hub's viewing chambers, not with their old contempt, but with something that looks a lot like pride. Our ancient observer still appears occasionally, though less frequently now. They say we're ready to find our own way, to make our own mistakes and discoveries. The last time they visited, they left us with a puzzle that researchers across thousands of worlds are still trying to solve, coordinates to what might be the first evolved network ever created. But it's the changes on Earth that move me the most. The quantum anchors have transformed our cities into living organisms of metal and stone, growing and adapting to our needs. Children born after the transformation show remarkable abilities to connect with this new technology naturally. They don't see the barriers between organic and artificial that we once did. To them, it's all part of the same cosmic dance. The other formerly protected worlds have become our closest allies. We trade not just goods and technology, but art, music, and dreams. Each species brings its own unique perspective to the confluence, creating a tapestry of cultures and ideas that grows richer every day. The chaos the Council once feared has become our greatest source of creativity and innovation. Recently, our deep space monitors detected the first clear signals from one of those other evolved networks. The message was simple but profound. Welcome, siblings. You've taken the first step. Are you ready for the next? We're still debating how to respond, but this time the debate isn't driven by fear or control. It's driven by curiosity and hope. Looking back, I realized that Earth's fierce retaliation wasn't really about fighting the Council. It was about fighting for the right to choose our own path, to make our own mistakes, and to dream our own dreams. We didn't just break free from control. We broke free from the very idea that control was necessary for progress. Some say we got lucky, that we couldn't have planned for everything to work out this way. Maybe they're right, but I think there's a deeper truth here. The universe doesn't need controllers or protectors. It needs explorers and dreamers, beings willing to take risks and learn from their failures. To any other civilizations out there facing their own councils, their own chains of control, I say this: look to the stars, but also look within. Your greatest strength isn't in your technology or your weapons. It's in your ability to imagine something better, to adapt, to evolve. That's what the Council never understood, and that's what humanity finally proved. The galaxy is waiting. The question is, what will we become next?